Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Dortmund and their chances to pull off an upset against Real Madrid. We'll be discussing the big holdup with Erik ten Hag at United. We'll react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Discuss my top 5 players to watch at Copa America, and make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be discussing my top 5 players to watch at the European Championships this summer. Before we start, I would like to ask you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with we're going to look ahead to the Champions League final this summer, or this weekend. I'm saying this summer. This weekend, big game coming up between Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund, legacy-defining game. Now, how can Borussia Dortmund pull off the upset? Well, when we discuss that, I first want to look at the context of how they reached here. They've had a very up and down season when it comes to their form in the Bundesliga. It has not been good enough. Last year they went to the Champions League. Final. Last time they reached the Champions League final has been a very, very long time. It was 2012, and they've won one in their history, and they'll like to double that outcome. But when you look at this season, it's been very, very up and down season. In league form, it's just not been good enough. They finished 5th place. They're only qualifying for next year's Champions League on the new basis of the 5th place team getting in through the European performance slot. Yes, their success in the Champions League is one of the main reasons why. But again, 5th place is just not good enough for Borussia Dortmund standards. A huge drop-off from last season where they almost won the Bundesliga, where they took it all the way to the final day, and they sold it in the last game of the season, last couple of games of the season actually, but they had every opportunity to win that Bundesliga, and it went down to the wire. This one, it was they were gone very, very quickly from those chances, and they were just up a very inconsistent season. They had some good performances, especially when you look at the Champions League, but then they followed by bad losses to teams that were in the bottom half of the Bundesliga. Just bad performances throughout the season, and it's been very, very shaky for them. They did a great job in the summer bringing in players on loan from other clubs that weren't playing as much, that come in and make an immediate impact as starters. When you look at the likes of Jadon Sancho and Ian Maatsen, who's both been very important in their roles in the second half of the season, since they have came in at that left back and right wing position. And they had very, very good semifinals against PSG that helped Dortmund reach where they are today. And I definitely think they're going to make some sort of effort to keep them. But despite their league form, this season in the Champions League, they've been, we have to say, they have been absolutely brilliant in the Champions League this season. They were in the group of death. They got drawn in the group of death, going up against the likes of AC Milan, Newcastle, and PSG. That is the toughest group, and they ended up winning that group actually, only losing 1 game in the process, winning 3 games, drawing 2, and only losing 1 game, finishing with 11 points. They actually won that group, and that helped them get easier positioning in the knockout stages to allow them to make this run that they were able to make. They started off against PSV. They took care of PSV when the return leg came back to Dortmund, getting a crucial 2-0 win. Then they took on an Atletico Madrid who, and I thought would would get the better of this Dortmund team whenever the quarterfinal draws came out and we got to see the rest of the tournament, the shape of the tournament. I thought Atletico Madrid was the team in that side of the bracket that was going to get to the final, which, wow, that would have made a very interesting final. In my opinion, it would have made a very interesting final, but it ended up being Dortmund, who Atletico Madrid, they had their chance in that first half, the first leg, to put the game away, but Borussia Dortmund, they stayed in it, they stayed resilient. They ended up getting that goal in the second half by, I believe it was Sebastian Aller, to half the deficit, and it became a massive goal. And then they came into the return leg at home, and it was a very interesting game. It was a game of runs, essentially. They went on, they were the protagonists in the first half. Then they get two crucial goals to make it, get them the lead within 5 minutes apart from each other. Then to start off the second half, Atletico Madrid, they get back into the game through an own goal by Hummels, and then Correa scores on transition, and it seems like, oh boy, Borussia Dortmund, now they're down 1. Atletico Madrid, this is the perfect position they want to be in. But then Borussia Dortmund went on another run to save themselves. And there's 2 goals in the span of 3 minutes from Füllkrug and Sabitzer. And it was very, very impressive to beat the way that they were able to be clinical in the short amount of times in that second leg against the Atletico Madrid team that's known for their very solid defending and not giving up much space. And they move on from that, and then they take on a PSG team, which really comes down to them just being more clinical than PSG, taking advantage of their opportunities, with Füllkrug taking advantage in the first leg. It was a game of a lot of missed opportunities, but Borussia Dortmund were just more clinical than them, and Borussia Dortmund defended for their lives. They were under pressure. They were under heavy pressure. Matt Hummels, Schlotterbeck, Sule even coming on late. They defended for their lives and defended like their lives was on it. And obviously you have to get lucky in those situations. Do PSG, they didn't come with their finishing boots. They hit the post many times throughout the 2 legs. They were inches away many times, and it just seemed like it was not PSG's day, and that's kind of been the story of PSG in the Champions League. So they were able, whenever you're making these runs, especially as an underdog team, yes, your skill and all that is very important, but also you need to get lucky. And they got lucky to get here too. Luck was a part of it, but they made their own luck too with their ability to defend. Their ability to defend has, been able to make their own luck. And that's why they're here. And now we go to the final. For Borussia Dortmund to win the final, that defense, that level of desperation that they had against against PSG, they need to defend with that sort of desperation, putting their last minute. And look, this is a Champions League final, and they're gonna die on that pitch for the badge. But they're gonna have to do more. They're going to literally have to get near that mark if they want to get past, because they're going to have to defend. The players are going to have to get ready to defend against pace and transition with Rodrigo and Vinicius. And keep in mind, when Real Madrid played, how clinical Vinicius and Rodrigo are, they only need that one opportunity. If they can get in behind, especially Rodrigo, he only needs that one opportunity to get into the back of the net. You saw against Bayern, mistakes is what brought Real Madrid in. Lack of concentration, lack of focus in certain areas. When you talk about in the first leg was Kim Min-jae stepping up, allowing Vinicius to make that run in behind. The penalty Kim Min-jae conceded with Rodrigo turning his back to goal, essentially just a horrible mistake. In the second leg, Manuel Neuer dropping the ball into Joselu's arm. It's just like how clinical Real Madrid are and how precise they are. They will take advantage of any sort of little mistake you in. So the concentration, the defensive concentration has to be there from Borussia Dortmund. It will take one opportunity, and once Real Madrid get that opportunity and they get it back in the net, then it's just gonna make it damn much harder for Borussia Dortmund. Because if Borussia Dortmund want any chance to win this, and even if they were able to get this, by the way, Real Madrid still shown their ability to come back late in crucial ties. So that's just, even if they were able to get this, I don't think it'll be enough. But of Borussia Dortmund want to win this game, they have to start off on the front foot. They have to be, they're the ones that are going to have to get the goal early and put the pressure on the Real Madrid players. And getting the goal early is probably not even going to be enough. They're going to have to keep putting pressure on them, because at the end of the day, Real Madrid, if they go up early, you're essentially like looking at it as if it's almost game over. Real Madrid are just going to play very, very sit tight, very compact, and I don't think Borussia Dortmund have the quality and they're clinical enough to take part that Real Madrid team when they play so compact. So Borussia Dortmund, not only they're going to have to come up early and they're going to have to get a goal early to put more pressure on Real Madrid, but they're going to have to essentially get even more goals and kind of put Real Madrid out of reach near the late of the game, so Real Madrid can go on those miraculous late game comebacks that they've shown their ability to do in the last few years in the Champions League. It's a very, very difficult task. I'm looking at it. I said this similar to United City when I was talking about United City, but the difference between United City and this is Real Madrid. It's just in their nature. They don't lose these games. They always figure out a way to come back in it. So I don't know. I think it's a very difficult task for Borussia Dortmund to come up with this upset. We're gonna take a short break here. When we come back, I'm gonna discuss the United Ten Hag situation.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
Before the break, we discussed Dortmund and their chances against Real Madrid. I now have to discuss Manchester United situation with Erik ten Hag, the big hold-up. What is going on here? What is going on here with the Real Madrid, with the Manchester United Erik ten Hag situation? It seems like we have talked about this for ages now. I mean, this has been the story over and over and over again, and it's going to be continuing to be the story until they make some sort of decision. Now, the latest reports, and these reports are coming from sources close to the NUS Sporting Group, the new group that runs the sporting operations with Manchester United. They have yet to decide Ten Hag's future, and he's currently, Erik ten Hag is in a position where he's having to wait to learn whether or not he is going to be the United manager next season. Apparently, according to sources, one of the co-owners of Manchester United, the face of this new group coming in, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and his NUS team are apparently doing an end-of-season review that looks at Manchester United's total performance throughout the season, from the beginning to the end. and it also, is a big impact on whether or not that assessment is gonna have a big impact / focus on Ten Hag, on whether or not he should be here or he should be at United, or should be sacked. It's been reported that this assessment is going to take around 4 days, but there is no time limit according to United. Yeah, I don't know. Number one, also it's important to know that during a few days ago, before the FA Cup final, there were sources that said they were talking to McKenna at Ipswich Town. Now McKenna does have links to United. He was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's assistant during his period at Manchester United. There was a time that he was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's assistant. He has taken Ipswich Town from Champions League, from Football League One to the Championship, up to the Premier League in back-to-back seasons. A remarkable impact. There's also, and they discussed with him, but it's looking like McKenna's going to stay at Ipswich Town. There's also been throughout this last month or so, or throughout this period or so, that the United have had interest in Gareth Southgate, and then there has been more speculation around Roberto De Zerbi, especially when he walked away from Brighton after the season that they had. So yeah, there has been rumors and all that going on. Now, it's very tricky and very confusing for me for why the hold up in this decision. Because if Erik Ten Hag... Look, I don't think one game should determine whether or not a manager should stay or not. Winning or not winning a FA Cup final, I don't know if that should be the deciding factor. I think United need to look at whether or not they have the style of play, whether or not they've shown patterns that that a manager coming in should show, whether or not there's been improvement in the team, and you have to include all the circumstances of injuries and all that, and all the things that Ten Hag has gone through. And despite one game should not matter, when you look at the fact that they've won 2 trophies in 2 years, that should be a factor. Now, if we want to list out the positives and negatives of Erik Ten Hag, number one, the positives, positives and excuses. Let's say positives and excuses. Number one, this has been a horrible injury-riddled team. Manchester United, when you've looked at this, it's been an injury crisis this season. There's no going away from that. It's been an absolutely injury crisis this season. When you look at the amount of games players have missed, the amount of minutes they have missed, and it's been crucial players throughout the season that's missed games. Crucial players, a guy like Lisandro Martinez, Tyrell Malacia, Harry Maguire has been out a lot, Varane has been out a lot, Mason Mount, he's been out a lot, Anthony Martial has yet to play this season. We don't know where he's been. It's just, there's been a lot of players that have been just out, just in and out of this team. And it is a proper Luke Shaw. We haven't seen him at all this season, essentially. It's been an injury-riddled season, so that is a valid excuse for him. And you have to look at the situations that he's dealt with in his 2 seasons when it comes down to the Cristiano Ronaldo, walking in and dealing with the Cristiano Ronaldo situation. That is a hard situation for a manager to deal with in his first real big job, big elite job in Europe. I know Ajax is, a big job in the Netherlands, but when you look at world football, I think when you talk about the likes of Manchester United, it's a different level. One of the biggest clubs in the world. So dealing that situation going in is very difficult. And the way he handled it was, in my opinion, the only way he could have. The Jadon Sancho situation, the way he handled that, there's a gray area whether it was right or wrong. You see what he's doing at Borussia Dortmund. You can't argue against that. And also more positives is what he did last season, the progress he showed last season, the runs that they won, and this was when the team was fully healthy. And they had a good balance of being able to take the game to the opposition and being able to, play a little bit more in the transition. But that is not Ten Hag's way, though. Ten Hag's way is the Barcelona way, to say possession-oriented, playing high line, playing roulette football. That is it, and that's the football that we see that we've seen him play at Ajax. We don't see that at Manchester United, so that's something of concern. But last season we saw a good balance from him, and the team performed very, very well. Casemiro, he came in, he played very, very well that first season. He was a very important player for Manchester United, and then this season he fell off. But yeah, I think last season the Premier League was a true positive. Winning 2 trophies in 2 years, the trophy drought this team has been unbelievable before Ten Hag was here. When you look at the second year on from Jose Mourinho's run all the way up to the end of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going into Ralf Rangnick in that season, through the end of the 2021-22 campaign, it's been horrible campaign for United. Trophyless drought, and for a team like United, that's unacceptable. That's Tottenham-esque. And he has came in and he has won 2 trophies in 2 seasons. That is factual. That's not arguable. He won a Carabao Cup and he's won an FA Cup. He has won more trophies these past 2 years than Mikel Arteta. In fact, he's won infinitely more amount, because Mikel Arteta hasn't had any trophies. Ten Hag has won 2. Ten Hag has won more trophies in his 2 years at Manchester United than Mikel Arteta has had in 5.5, I believe, seasons at Arsenal. 5.5, maybe 6 years, something of that nature. So there is some respect that deserves to be given towards Erik Ten Hag for the situation he has dealt with. I think some things that he said in the pressers have not helped him. The defiance when it comes to style of play, talking about not having certain players that fits his mold, even though he brought in a lot of these players. When you see the excuses that he makes in press conferences, talking about the refereeing decisions a lot and all that, there has been certain things that can, rub United fans the wrong way throughout the season. And he's done a very good U-turn job of alienating a lot of United fans, because there was a lot of United fans that were saying Erik Ten Hag at the wheel, singing Erik Ten Hag at the wheel. And a lot of those fans this season are wanting him out. Now, whether or not the FA Cup final changes anything, that is... you can see there's a shift of United fans, coming back and saying, okay, we want Ten Hag back in. But the thing is, the Ten Hag situation is just rinse and repeat with United. Is firing Ten Hag and bringing in Mauricio Pochettino, is that what you need to do to make United reach the next level? Is that what it is? I don't know, but I don't understand the big hold up here with United and Erik Ten Hag. They should just come out and make the decision, because at the end of the day, there is nothing that happens between now and the next few days. They should have been, doing a season long. They should have been analyzing the season and doing this assessment throughout the last few weeks. They shouldn't wait till the end of the season to start this assessment, because it puts you in the position to be behind. Now Mauricio Pochettino has walked away. He has an opportunity to talk other clubs. It looks like Barcelona, they're locked in on Hansi Flick. But imagine if Man United, imagine if Barcelona wanted Mauricio Pochettino, or imagine United, maybe they wanted Hansi Flick. Now that's not even a possibility for them. If they decide to sack Ten Hag, I don't understand the situation that they're finding themselves in. But it's Manchester United. It's been a poor run club for a very, very long time. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to react to some of the headlines going on in the soccer world.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, I discussed the big holdup at Manchester United with Erik ten Hag. We now react to some of the headlines going into the soccer world. First thing I would like to talk about real quick is Southampton. They are back in the Premier League. We were discussing McKenna and the Ipswich Town, so they got in already through one of the top 2 spots in the championship. We know Leicester under Enzo Maresca, they ended up winning the championship. They got in. Those 2 teams were automatically in, and they came down to a playoff between Leeds United and Southampton. Southampton defeated Leeds. Despite Southampton actually finishing below Leeds in the championship, those 2 teams had to face off in the playoffs. Southampton beat Leeds at Wembley behind Adam Armstrong's first half goal to move on to the Premier League. They will get promoted up there. So I just wanted to let y'all know about that. Timo Werner, they Tottenham Hotspur have triggered a new loan deal, and it also has an option to buy Timo Werner, and he's going to have a second season at Tottenham. He played over 900 minutes for Spurs during the second half loan. He scored twice and had 3 assists, but then he got injured in April to end up the season. This is a guy that provides pace for Tottenham, and he gives them a little bit different dynamic up top. So, I think giving him another season to come in, to get a preseason with this team, I think Ange Postecoglou could really get the best out of him. So I think this is a good move, not only for Tottenham, but also for him, for his career. He missed out on the squad for Germany at the Euros. I think this is a good opportunity for him to get his career back on track. Kylian Mbappe had some interesting comments discussing AC Milan, talking about AC Milan being his love in Italian football. We had also some comments from his mom saying he always talked about AC Milan growing up. He said, if I go to Serie A, I'd like to play for AC Milan one day. Open up the room for some sort of speculation. Now, it is obvious, or should I say highly likely, we never know with Mbappe, that Real Madrid will be the team he's going to be signing for this summer. And it'll probably be finalized shortly after the Champions League. But I don't know. Maybe he's using this, AC Milan thing maybe as some sort of leverage. There was like some reports earlier, a few months ago, discussing Mbappe having to take a pay cut to go to Real Madrid because Real Madrid felt like they were treated unfairly throughout the process of trying to recruit Mbappe last season. there was the rumors of them not, going after Mbappe no more because of the frustration with the situation with Mbappe. Now, at the end of the day, Mbappe is a very, very talented player. And, we all knew that Real Madrid were eventually going to put their pride to the side because, this is a player that, is someone, he's the best player in the world, and he's coming in and he's going to change this club and change the outlook of this club, and not change actually, because they're still dominant, they're still winning La Ligas, they're still in Champions League final, but it's just another Galactico. So not hugely surprising regarding that. The Europa Conference League is happening, final is happening tomorrow, technically today because we just passed midnight, but it is between Olympiacos and Fiorentina. Olympiacos are trying to make history. They can become the first side in history, the first Greek club to win a European trophy. So, huge implications from them. Their managers said we have to stay calm and relaxed and do what got us to the final. To change anything would be a mistake. That's what Mendy, manager of Olympiacos, said. We also said we have to treat this game like any other because that's how we managed to get to the final. Olympiacos actually went through, a rough stage throughout the Conference League. In the round of 16, they actually lost at home to Maccabi Tel Aviv, 4-1. And in the second leg, they played it actually in Serbia. And they ended up winning the game 6-1 after extra time. That got Olympiacos through. And keep in mind, Mendilibar, manager of Olympiacos, he led Sevilla to a Europa League win last season, and he defeated Olympiacos last season to get there. So this is a manager that has experience in these sort of, in these European situations, and he's shown his ability. So for me, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting final. I think the historical side of it is going to add that extra nature of intensity. And we're all very, very interested to see how this will go down. Fiorentina are the favorites. They're the 140 plus favorites, according to these odds. And but a lot of people believe Olympiacos can get this underdog story complete, and it'll be a great achievement for Olympiacos' manager. For Olympiacos managers Jose Mendilibar, who I think has had a very, very good managerial career. What he did at Sevilla, now here, he is 64 years old, but I definitely believe he does have what it takes to coach at a higher level if he, if a club gives him that opportunity, and if he wants to too. That's also there. 64 years old, he's a little bit later on in his career, but very interested to see what, if he wins this, what it will do for him. More headlines. We discussed the Champions League final. We don't know what is going on actually. Let's see. Greenland, they've applied for membership to CONCACAF. Geographically they're located right above Canada, but they have European roots, with ethnically, being owned by Danish government, all that, just the team wise, but geographically they're in that North American region. They happen to have a population of a little bit more than 50K, which happens to be a little bit more than other teams in the islands that play in CONCACAF. So they want to grow their, region of playing international football, and they want to get into CONCACAF. Czech Republic, they've announced their squad for Euro 2024. It's a squad that's dominated by players that play at Slavia Prague. But you also have the likes of, like a Patrick Schick, who had a dominant Euros last time around. That was looking to lead the line at this Euros again. I look for him to be their talisman at this summer. You also have Hojsek and Kovar, the other two Leverkusen players that will also be in that squad. Serbia, they announced their 26-man squad for the Euros. This is actually the first European Championships they've ever been to, even though they've been to a few World Cups in that time. But they're not going to be at but they will now be at this Euros. You had Alexander Mitrovic in the squad. You have Dusan Vlahovic, gonna be at the start. Dragan Stojkovic. He has a talented team with him. You have Sasa Lucic from Fulham, Nemanja Gude from Sevilla, Dusan Tadic from Fenerbahce. He's a talented player, a little bit older now, but still gives you that. You have the ability of Luka Jovic and Alexander Mitrovic and Dusan Vlahovic and Peter Ratvic. I think this is a team that could cause some teams a bit of concern. I definitely think they're in one of the tougher groups this European Championship, because of the fact that they're playing in a group with England, who, with the caliber of players that they have, a Denmark team that actually reached the semifinals of last Euros, and then there is the team that's a little bit less, than the rest, Slovenia. But in terms of Serbia, England, Denmark, I think that's three very, very good teams. So I'm interested. That group is going to be very, very interesting at this European Championship. Serbia get to actually open up against England, which will be a fascinating game. I think that game will be fascinating. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll discuss my top 5 players to watch at Copa America.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Top 5 players to watch at Copa America 2024. Oh, this is going to be an interesting list. This is going to be a list that I will get, probably canceled over. But keep in mind, this is not just the best. This is top 5 players to watch at this European Championship. And number 5, he's not the top 5 player at this Copa America. There's a lot more better players than him here. But just because of the hype, has to be Endrick. He is 17 years old, and he's, becoming a, huge name in football already. He's made that big money move to Real Madrid. He's currently playing at Palmeiras. And there's been so much hype on him. He has came into the Brazil setup last international window, and he scored 2 goals in those 2 games, he scored a game-winning goal against England, and then he went on to score another goal against Spain, scoring a goal in both of his 2 games. And Enrique he's a very talented player, and he has a lot of potential, and he's not going to be a starter, in my opinion. He shouldn't start for this Brazilian team. I think that our Brazil team is set with Vinicius, Rodrigo, Rafinha. I think that's the front three. That's the most talented front three. But seeing him make an impact off the bench is going to be very, very interesting, and see how much of an opportunity Dorvial Jr. will give him at the European champion, or at the Copa America. Number 4, I have to go with Christian Pulisic, who he is the star for the home team at this Copa America, the U.S. men's national team, and he has been their star ever since he was a teenager, and now he is reaching the top of his prime, and he's had up and downs in the Premier League, playing at Chelsea, some good moments, some bad moments, but ever since he came in for this AC Milan team, he has been marvelous throughout the season, and injuries have not affected him this season, which is all that we could ask for, and he's been brilliant this season. He's been consistent. He has he's reached his career high when it comes to goals, scoring 12 goals for AC Milan this season. He has been an important part of the team. He starts every game. Stefano Pioli, he tries to get him in there no matter what. And he's just been very, very consistent, brilliant. And if the U.S. want to make a run at this Copa America, he has to show up. And he showed up for them at the last World Cup. And he's going to have to come in and, make that kind of impact yet again. Number 3 is a tight one for me. I'm gonna go, you could go a lot of different ways here. But number 3, I'm gonna go with Darwin Núñez at Uruguay. Now, Darwin Núñez, he's had an up and down start at Liverpool, but Darwin Núñez is a player with quality. When you look at what he did that last season at Benfica before he got signed for Liverpool, there was a reason why his transfer value was that high. He is a very, very good footballer, but he just has lacked clinicalness. And for Uruguay to make these runs, Uruguay throughout international tournaments, especially in World Cups, they have had to rely on these star players to come up, because this is a relatively small country, but they develop, each group has a few core stars. They have the Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, the Diego Forlans, and those players, they end up coming up big in international tournaments for them. Darwin Núñez and also Federico Valverde, to a certain extent, those 2 players have to be the new stars, the new clutch stars, the new goal scorers. Not goal scorers, but, the new players that come in that make those big time impact at this tournament. And I think Darwin Núñez has to come in and make that impact if Uruguay want to win this Copa America, which I think they have the team to do it. They have the manager to do it. I think putting Darwin Núñez in a team with the way Marcelo Bielsa plays, I think it's a match made, and that's perfect for them. But I think, he has to be that big star for them if they want to reach that Copa America championship, but that's the level of them. Number 2, Vinicius Jr. Brilliant player. On the verge of potentially winning a Ballon d'Or if he wins this Champions League final, and if he can go on to win Copa America. I think that kind of wraps up the Ballon d'Or for Vinicius Jr. The amount of goals and assists he gets for Real Madrid, especially in the knockout stages for the Champions League, how key he has been, how clinical he is, how dominant he is, how much of a fear factor he creates for opposing back lines, his ability to take over a game on his own. He's going to be a big name, and he is a big star for this Copa America and a big draw for this Copa America, one of the main headline stars of this. And that's why I put him number 2. The thing with this, though, is his performances for Real Madrid has not equated with his performances for Brazil. You see, his performances Brazil have just flat out not been to the same level. And I think Brazil fans, they will start losing some patience with Vinicius. Right now, they've been in a weak point just in general, so they don't really have a player to blame. But let's say Vinicius goes on and wins this Copa America, and the way he did it, how dominant he was, Brazilian fans are gonna want that sort of level for Brazil, and they were patient with him throughout the World Cup. And despite his performance in the World Cup, it had the turn. There hasn't been a huge backlash towards Vinicius, but if he has a Copa America where he does not show up for Brazil, I think he's going to open himself up to huge criticism. And I think it's imperative for him and his Brazilian career for him to have a very, very good Copa America and, to win it with Brazil. Because when you are the Brazil national team at Copa America, at any international tournament, anything less than winning it all is a complete and utter failure for the likes of Brazil. And that's why I have Vinicius number 2. And number 1, I have to say, is Lionel Messi. You can talk about whether he's playing at Inter Miami or not. It don't matter. This is Lionel Messi. And I think the fact that we have not seen him play at the top level in so long makes this much more anticipated, because let's be honest, Messi's opening game against Canada is going to be the first time a lot of fans have watched Messi in a year or so, because people are not going to watch MLS. I don't watch MLS, and I watched a few World Cup qualifiers here and there, but this is going to be the first time most people are going to watch Messi playing in a real meaningful football again, playing for Argentina. And there's people that are, that assume, not just Messi, I think Ronaldo suffers the same fate. Oh yeah, these guys are in MLS and Saudi, they're over the hill. But these guys are still brilliant players. Messi had 5 assists and a goal in one game a few weeks ago. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And I think this Copa America is going to reminding people who Messi is again, because it seems like some people have forgot when they discuss about the world best players. Obviously, you can't mention him playing in MLS, but I definitely think he is still the best player at this Copa America. That's for sure. We're going to take a short break here, and when I come back, we'll discuss this list, but for the European Championship. Before the break, I discussed my top 5 players at a Copa America to watch. Now I'm going to discuss my top 5 players to watch at the European Championship. There's a lot of talented players to watch at these European Championships. A lot. But I want to discuss my top 5 players. Not the best ones, but just to want to watch. And I think you have to start off. I'm going to start off number 5 with Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, I'm going to go with number 5. I'll put Messi number 1 in Copa America. Number 5 here, I'm going to put Ronaldo because I do think there's still a difference between the two. I still think Messi is a much better player than Ronaldo, but that's not the near there. Cristiano Ronaldo, he's had a brilliant record goal scoring just run at Saudi League. When you look at this, the numbers that he's put up, it's been absolutely brilliant. And, this is going to be with the Messi factor. With the same thing as Messi. It's been a while since we've seen Ronaldo at the top level. These European Championships are going to be the first time a lot of football fans in general have watched Ronaldo play in a very, very, very long time. Since probably the last World Cup. And he played in the European qualifiers, and, those were competitive games too. But in terms of, at that top level, in terms of like with all eyes watching, this is going to be a time, and this is an opportunity for Cristiano Ronaldo to remind everybody still who he is. It seems like Roberto Martinez has given him the license. He's given him the free role to continue to be that number 9 leading the front for Portugal. So he's going to have that opportunity. He has brilliant players being able to create for him with Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, João Felix. He has a talented team around him, and it's up to him to elevate his game in terms of consistency, in terms of goal scoring, because he can have a huge impact at this Copa America based on what has surrounded him. They play beautiful attacking football under Roberto Martinez, so he will get his opportunities. So it's really up to him and his level for him to reach that standard. Now, number 4, I'm going to go with Rodri for Spain. Rodri has had a brilliant season at Manchester United. Manchester City, a very influential player. He has been the composer. He's been the component of the heart at Manchester City. Everything goes through him. He's the first guy that picks up the ball off the back line. He dictates the tempo of the game. He dictates how Manchester City, what style of, if they're gonna go, if they're gonna go long, if they're gonna, he just is everything goes through him, and his ability to be in there to not only protect the back line but also, make late runs into the box and, score goals that he's done throughout these past couple of years. The added element of that, he's just a brilliant player. And this is his first opportunity to play this kind of role for Spain at a major tournament. Sergio Busquets has been in the Spanish setup for a very, very long time, and he has played that Rodri role, and it's taken a long time for Rodri to get into this role just because of Sergio Busquets and the longevity that he's had. And despite the fact that maybe Rodri was even a better player for Sergio Busquets, just the experience and the respect that Luis Enrique had for Sergio Busquets, he still continued to play him at that position, and Rodri would have to play as center back or a different role, and it wasn't really his main role. But now this is the first international tournament where he is the main composer. He is the star of the midfield for Spain. Everything will go through him, and he will be the guy leading that midfield, and he'll get to have the same sort of impact that he had at Manchester City. He will have that sort of impact at Real Madrid, at Spain. And I think the Spain team is very, very talented. They have some young players too. And I think that they have a very good chance of making, that run. Number 3, I'm going to have to go with Jamal Musiala. Jamal Musiala, he's a brilliant player, very technical, gifted. When it comes to the ball at his feet, it's just so brilliant. His ability to dribble past players, he's been phenomenal. When you look at Jamal Musiala, he's not afraid in that big moment to see what he did in that first leg against Real Madrid. Or we can go back all the way to the World Cup in 2022 in that second game against Spain, against the Spanish national team, one of the best national teams. He just went in and he was just absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. Every time the ball got on him, it just seemed like he was going to get past one player easily, maybe get past the second. It just seemed like every time he got on the ball, I was on the edge of my seat. I was just very fascinated. He was such a talented player, in my opinion. Just hugely talented player. And I think you have to put him in this list as, one of the, top players to watch. Number 2, I'm going to go with Kevin De Bruyne for Belgium. Kevin De Bruyne, he's been, he had an injury throughout the season, but when he's been in for Manchester City, he's continued to be what he is, a brilliant player. I could just go on about the talent of a guy like Kevin De Bruyne. He's just an amazing, talented player. But now he's in a Belgium team that's kind of in a reboot, a little bit different. They still have the same stars as before with Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. There's still those two guys. But you got new guys getting influxed in, new manager in Domenico Teodesco. You got a guy like Leandro Trossard, who's been a brilliant guy off the bench for Arsenal. He's gonna have a big impact on this team. You have a guy like Jeremy Doku with his ability to be very, very direct. He has a good he's gonna have a huge impact on this team. The midfield of Onana, Tielemans, Mangala has a lot of balance in the way that they play. It's a proper footballing midfield. And then put in De Bruyne in that midfield too. He's going to have a team around him. He's going to be in charge of leading this reboot for Belgium. And, for Belgium, if they want to make this run, which I think they're kind of in a good spot to make an underdog run at this European Championship because of the fact that there's no pressure on them. Everyone assumes this golden generation is done and, they'll just go on and they'll probably get eliminated in the round of 16 or quarterfinal. That's really the expectation for this Belgium team. Nobody gives them a realistic shot to go all the way. I think that puts Kevin De Bruyne in a perfect position to lead this team with no pressure going on. I think he is going to have a huge tournament this summer. And then number 1 has to be the best player in the world, according to many people, Kylian Mbappe. He has been dominant for France in international tournaments, but he has not won a European Championship yet. He's been to 2 World Cup finals, won 1 World Cup, but they haven't had that sort of success in the European Championship. Last time they played in the European Championship, they got eliminated in the round of 16 to a Switzerland team. So he can come in and I think he'll have he'll be perform at an extreme level. He'll get the goals for the France national team, and he's definitely the number 1 player to watch. Now, there's some players that I missed and that I'm going to get criticism for. Jude Bellingham, the season he's had at Real Madrid, I think he'll have a huge impact, yes. And he'll be one to watch. Lamine Yamal is one that it was just missed this list. A brilliant technical player and a player that he has that Endrick factor of a player that is coming and he's, taking over, jumping into the scene. And I think he is going to have a lot of eyes on him. I think he has an opportunity to make a big impact. When you look at Germany being the home team, I think a guy that a lot of eyes will get put on is, besides Jamal Musiala, is a guy like a Florian Wirtz playing in a more attacking midfield role. The impact that he has on Germany, him and Jamal Musiala, I think they'll both be, huge stars for this German national team. Italy. Can Federico Chiesa recreate the form that he had at the last summer at last European Championship? Can he recreate that form and lead this team on a run? Can Luka Modric do what he does in international tournaments, lead Croatia on a run? Harry Kane for England, his goal-scoring prowess, the way he's led them, what he's able to do? When you look at Portugal, there's many stars on that team that could have this, sort of has potential to be the star of the tournament, Mikhailo Mudryk. I believe he's been very, very raw at Chelsea, but I think he can have a huge tournament for Ukraine this summer, just based on his raw ability. I think he has a huge opportunity this summer as well. Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic European Championship, so I'm very interested to see how it goes. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.